Thank you very much for staying and welcome back to Marketplace. Let's move on to the very first story. And the IMF cannot be blamed for the current challenges with the economy. That's the view of renowned economist Dr. Joe Abbey. The previous administration ended the year spending far more than previously thought. This could result in the budget deficit reaching almost 9%. The country's debt in relation to the value of the economy has also crossed the 70% mark. It has missed out on end-of-year inflation targets of 13.5%. The development has resulted in some questioning effectiveness of the IMF program, especially when all the review meetings showed Ghana was on track with the consolidation program. But Dr. Joe Abbey says the fund acted based on the data presented to them.
Well, a lot of Ghanaians will have to know that the assessments that the IMF made were on the basis of what our government officially told them. For example, we never admitted that we were having payment arrears in the system. So the IMF will look at the way you seem to be closing the deficit gap in line with the program targets and would say that you are doing fine. The reality, though, is that if meanwhile you are piling up payment arrears, if you don't pay, it will look like you're not borrowing. So there's a way in which there's a technicality here that if the IMF itself, so your question really is this, was the IMF fooled or was the IMF itself withdrawn and say to Ghana, look, if you people are all sitting down there and if you say this is what you are achieving and if this is what is coming to us officially from the highest level, then you are doing fine. So there's a way in which we should be careful not to get ourselves involved in a blame game which can hit us back. In year 2001, the IMF came up with a report which said that Ghana had economized on some of the information given to them, and therefore some disbursement they made in August 2000 should not have been made. And Ghana was embarrassed by that. So it is not too difficult for the IMF to again come and say, we also have been had. So you can't say we didn't defend you. It is the responsibility of us in civil society to find the ways and means of holding our governments to account, not rely on somebody else to be accusing our government of lying.
And in a related development, the World Bank is forecasting a 7.5% growth target for the economy this year. The projection was contained in the bank's latest global economic report covering over 100 countries around the world. The Washington-based institution says Ghana's growth will be influenced by investor confidence in the economy and improved revenue. Now moving on, Tullow says it is working to reduce the time for the Jubilee oil fields shutdown for this year. According to the oil exploration firm, the move should help lessen the negative impact on the country's power supply. But could this assurance prevent the expected power crisis projected by some energy think tanks for the year? George Rafi tells us more.
Tullow last year announced they will be shutting down the Jubilee oil field for more than 3 months from February to June this year. This is to help carry out some maintenance works on the turret bearing and equipment that aids the extraction of crude oil from the seabed in the Jubilee area. The announcement was expected to affect power supply badly, as most of the country's generating plants depended heavily on gas from the Jubilee field. This resulted in some energy think tanks projecting that the power crisis will come again this year, especially when the country is also struggling to raise the required funds to import gas. Tullow says it is hoping to do everything in its power to avert this. It has also announced that it is hoping to start exporting gas from the 10 oil field later this year. Average daily production of oil from the Jubilee field this year is pegged at 68,000 barrels a day, while 50,000 for the 10 oil field. Tullow has also indicated that the maritime border dispute between Ghana and Ivory Coast will resume from February 6th, whilst the ruling is expected in the last quarter of this year.
Implement policies that target the basket of goods used in determining inflation if you want to achieve a single-digit rate. That's the advice coming from the Statistical Service to the new government. Inflation has been a major concern for consumers, mainly because of its impact on the prices of goods and services. Government missed its end-of-year inflation target for 2016 by almost 2 percentage points. The rate as at the end of December was 15.4%, compared with the target of 13.5%. Speaking with Joy Business, Deputy Government Statistician Ban Wadie explained government needs to utilize the data they churn out in its policy formulation if the single digit is to be achieved.
What policy direction any government is pursuing for the economy, whether it is inflationary or it is deflationary. We have a lot of information as to the weights of various items and the effects of every item would have a weighted impact on the economy. And people should pay attention to the data that is being put. They should use data for the determination of policy. And when they use data, they will be able to judge beforehand the effect of some of the policies on the economy.
A quick one on the policy still, the 8% target. It appears we haven't been able to, the one Justice spoke about. What can get us there?
The 8% target, that is what I'm saying, that when we are setting the target, if you want to reach 8% in inflation, then if you should target, you should implement policies that have deflationary effect.
Such as what?
I won't know what, but what I'm saying is each of the items that people consume have a weight. That is, has a proportion in terms of its impact on the overall inflation. So the effects of the various items and the item groups is what you should critically look at, so that if you want inflation to drop, you may not necessarily go into increasing the prices of items which are inflationary. Or if, yeah, basically that. Or you have to bring countervailing effects in terms of policy, assuming you trigger off policies that could increase prices of items which have big weights.
Meanwhile, Deputy Government Statistician Dr. Ban Wadie said the reduction of the price of petroleum products last month may have impacted mostly on the non-food components, which ended up in the reduction of the inflation rate to 15.4%.
The dip in the inflation rate is one due basically to base drift effect, was due to base drift effect. What we are saying is that the monthly change in the base figure of December 2015 was about 1.1% as compared to the monthly change in December 2016, which was 0.9%. And once the base has been pushed up as a result of certain factors during that period, we can't expect anything higher. There must be a little decline in the figures because the base will be big. But specifically, what contributed to this decline or fall in inflation in December was due to non-food inflation, which fell by a 0.5 percentage point from 18.7% in November to 18.2% in December 2016.
And this non-food included what?
And specifically, the non-food items or the subgroups were education, which fell by 2.3 percentage points from a level of 25.7% in November to 23.4% in December. We also have furnishings, household equipment and routine maintenance also declining by 1.5 percentage points from 20.3% in November to 18.8% in December 2016. Apart from that, yes, the inflation in petroleum prices also dipped. And that affected so many of the items. You know, the effect of fall in inflation for petrol and diesel is massive. It affects transport, it affects so many things. And these contributed largely to pushing the inflation down.
Away from that, Director of Research at the Institute of Energy and Climate Change Policy, Dr. Philip Kofi-Adom, says the suggestion by the nominated Minister of Finance, Ken Ofori-Atta, not to increase utility and fuel prices will further cause problems in the power sector. In an interview with Joy Business after his nomination, Ken Ofori-Atta ruled out increasing electricity prices. But Dr. Kofi-Adom says inadequate supply and increased demand for power have been challenges the country has had to battle with in the past, and believes halting electricity prices will further worsen the financial position of the utility companies.
If a government wants to actually solve the problem, then we should rather go the most efficient way. And therefore, going back to the most efficient way is not the best way to go. So we feel that the intentions that have been reviewed by the nominated finance minister.
I'm sorry to butt in, but what do you mean by the most efficient way?
You know, previously, let me put it that way, that because the government was always coming in to interfere with the pricing mechanism, we had a situation whereby the utility companies were not able to charge prices that actually cover their cost of production. And that actually created a problem in the utility sector, which now we have this issue of high debt situation. And the best way that we've always said is that even if prices have to come down, it should be by the invisible hands of the market, not a visible hand by the government. And that is what we feel, that this intention reviewed by the finance minister is an act where we are going to see a visible hand trying to interfere with the most efficient way of determining prices, which is allowing the market itself to determine what the optimal prices should be.
Now, many of the most successful people in business today started out as teenage entrepreneurs, and that could very well be the story of Inshira Nyako, the 13-year-old who has started exploring business opportunities in bead making. Now, one of the things we aim to do on the Joy Business Fund is not only to showcase and empower Ghana's small and medium-scale enterprises, but also inspire young people who have ambitions of setting up their own businesses. And so we took Inshira to meet her role model, Joyce Owusu, the owner of Purple Trends. Let's have a repeat of the Joy Business Fund.
Inshira Nyako is only 13, but she has big dreams for the future. She wants to do business.
Hey. Hello. Hello, how are you? Hi. You finally made it? Yes.
Today, she's here to meet one of her role models, Joyce Owusu, owner of Purple Trends GH, who was last year acknowledged as Best Fashion Accessories Designer at the Ghana Fashion Awards. Inshira is a bead accessories maker herself. She shares how she discovered her passion.
I'm into general fashion, so I saw bead making as like an aspect of it, so I became interested in it and I like it. When I started it, I realized I like it.
So she got a little training and kick-started her own designs.
Well, I make them like the necklace and the bracelets with the earrings. So they come as a set.
But after watching the story of Purple Trends GH on the Joy Business Van, Inshira discovered there was more she had to learn.
I liked her story because most people will start to learn, but then she started trying on her own and yeah, it was successful. So I'm hoping to learn some new designs and stuff.
These are amazing, trust me. How long have you been doing this?
I started last year, but it's mostly during the vacations.
Wow. So have you sold anything yet?
Yes.
Oh, okay, so you're already making money from it. I mean, they're beautiful, no two ways about it. You're doing very well, I would say, but then there are a lot of things that you also have to know about them. The designs are crazy, but then beading isn't always about the designs. there is more to it. Talk of the finishing and other things. I don't know. I've spotted a few things and I'll help you on that, especially with the finishing. Okay, great.
Time to get to work. After a few hours, Inshira appears to have gotten a hang of the new design she has been taught. Joyce leaves her with this piece of advice.
Growing up, people have the mentality that these things are for people that do not have the opportunity to be in school or to be educated. But then I can tell you now that the story is different. I'm a university graduate or a degree holder and I do this. And I intend to even go higher than just the degree. So don't give up. You can have your master's or anything and you still be in it. Make sure you invest right, save, know the right tools and materials to work with. And I always say that when you do all of these without God, you won't succeed. So don't also give up on God. So thank you very much for coming and bye-bye.
Inshira is leaving Purple Trends GA today with not only some new skills, but with greater motivation to pursue her dream of creating her own bead accessories brand.
Most people think bead making is for people who don't have any other job to do, but in these days, like for example, taking the example of her, she's a degree holder who is also doing bead making, and it's good. I'm motivated and inspired, and I'm determined to make good use of this bead making.
The Joy Business Van is on every Wednesday on Business Live with a repeat on Thursday on the Marketplace. You're moving on, and President Akufo-Addo has nominated former ranking member of Parliament's Finance Committee, Dr. Anthony Akutosei, to head the newly created Ministry of Monitoring and Evaluation. The ministry would monitor promises made in the government's budget and ensure they are met on time. Announcing the second batch of ministerial nominees, President Akufo-Addo gave details about the new ministry and why Dr. Anthony Akutosei was nominated to head it.
First two are, first of all, a minister who's going to be responsible for seeing to it that the targets set by government in our manifesto, as well as those that are set out in the budget, are met. Not just met, but met on time, so that the entire government machinery at all times is going to have somebody who's calling up and asking questions. Why are there delays in this? Why are there delays in that? It's an onerous task that we have taken upon ourselves, a very ambitious program of social and economic development before the country. And if that weapon, that tool for insisting that the work of government is efficient, is effective, and is timeous, we will not be able to deliver on that ambitious program. NPP has so many high-quality people, and I've chosen somebody who already has an extensive experience in the high level of governance in our country, who's himself a very renowned economist, was very successful in his first period of office in Ghana, and with his very strong understanding of the budgetary processes and targets, I believe he's the ideal man to perform this new role that I'm talking about. His very impressive background in his education. And then for the last few years, since we went into opposition, he's been the ranking member on our side on the Committee on Finance. He's also been a member of the Interior and Defense Committees. But in the last years of President Kufuor's government, he was Minister of State, the Minister of Finance, and effectively acted as the Minister for Finance at the end. So that knowledge, that understanding of the issues that he has to deal with, I think he's there. Come and join me. He's also a member of parliament for Old Tafel in Kumasi, senior figure in the parliament. So we'll have the rank to talk to everybody, fellow members of the cabinet as well as members of parliament. So it is Dr. Anthony Akuto Osei who I want to place in this role.
And meanwhile, some of the nominees have been sharing their thoughts regarding their new roles.
The future of our nation will depend very much on how we develop the railway. It reminds me of many years ago when I was a young lawyer in his office. He gave me a case to do. And I came back to him in 1 week's time and said, no, I can't do this case, but it's too difficult. He said to me that bad cases make good lawyers. So I think he has confidence in me. I won't let him down, I won't let the nation down. It's too soon to talk. We've had some preliminary meetings, but it's too soon to talk. At the appropriate time, we'll lay out a vision, and I assure you that we won't disappoint the nation. The initial discussions we've had for people, within 4 years, you can do something. Within 2-3 years, you can do something. Where we are going to get the money from, don't worry. We'll lay out the whole plan to the people of Ghana. They say Habakkuk, it says, lay the vision upon the table. Though it shall tarry, it shall surely come. We shall put the vision on the table, and you understand. As the president said, one of the tragedies of our development is the fact that we have ignored rail as a form of transportation. Let me assure you that we won't disappoint you.
You agree with me that artisanal mining, or the galamsey, as we are all aware of, has become a cancer within our environment. We believe that the young guys, ladies, women, the Ghanaians that are involved in this sector, their capacity needs to be built. They are human like any of the international mining companies. And so if we are able to build their capacity, they should be able to do the mining in a sustainable way. What is important is that mining must be done in a sustainable manner. And for it to happen, the capacity of this young group of people need to be built and taught to do the things in the right way. Immediately we begin to do that, I think that we'll achieve the objective of sustainable mining in Ghana.
I want to finish all the old houses. And when we finish the old houses, and then we look at contracts and we look at financial arrangements to make it easier for somebody to acquire a house without necessarily wiping out his whole monthly income, then we have succeeded. But it is critical that we should expedite the housing units and ensure that deficit of 1.7 million units are cleared. Now, what has given vent and strength to this exorbitant advance payment is the fact that the units are less than the need. You should bear in mind. So if you don't want to pay rent advance, then excuse me to say, find your space, not here. But if there are several houses that people can go into, then this exorbitant way of exacting money from, excuse me to say, house users will be toned down considerably. So there's the need to look at it from that perspective, and also to enforce the law.
The industry itself is evolving. There's more data usage than there used to be in the past. Fixed lines are almost obsolete now. The phone booths are totally, completely obsolete. But we can think about creative ways of infusing technology into everyday life. We're going to look at Wi-Fi hotspots around the country. We're going to look at technological ICT parks and all that. We're going to make the Accra Digital Center work. We're going to work to attract business process outsourcing, more companies into that area. We're going to see how we can create even more jobs with ICT than we have currently.
So those were some of the new ministerial nominees sharing their thoughts on their new roles when appointed or when approved by Parliament. And on that note, we wrap up this afternoon's edition of The Marketplace. Many thanks for your attention. Do join me again same time tomorrow for another package. My name is Emmanuel Abuaji Riafe. Have a good afternoon.